With all the controversy surrounding the Minecraft mob vote right now, I thought it would be fun to take a look back at all the mobs we have lost to the mob vote over the years, and what they would have brought to the game. Just for reference, I will only be covering mobs from the mob votes, not biome votes. With that said, let's get into it. The first mob vote was in 2017 and would feature 4 new mobs: the Barnacle, Phantom, the Great Hunter, and the Wildfire. Obviously the Phantom would win, but let's take a look at the other 3 losers, starting with the Barnacle. The Barnacle would spawn in the deep ocean biome and would suck the player down with its tentacle, and being able to propel itself forward with it, making the oceans more difficult to explore. This one is really cool since I feel like the ocean is a bit boring. It would get 23.8% of the votes. The Great Hunter was a lizard-like creature that would sink into the ground and camouflage itself, while having the ability to consume items as well as add or remove enchantments for the player. I think this mob would have been very helpful and a great addition to the game. It would get 26% of the votes. The Wildfire would spawn in the Nether and was an armored blaze that would spawn in other groups of blazes. After losing the mob vote, it was planned to be added in a DLC for Minecraft Dungeons, but was cut due to time constraints, and it would get 24% of the votes. Moving on to the 2020 mob vote held at Minecraft Live. This time we would only get 3 mobs to choose from: the Moobloom, Iceologer, and the Glow Squid. We all know that sadly the Glow Squid would end up taking the win this year. The Moobloom would spawn in flower forests and would be able to interact with bees somehow, as well as leaving a trail of flowers behind as they walk. These flowers would be known as the Buttercup flower, that would also drop when the Moobloom was eliminated. However, this was added to Minecraft Earth at a later date. It would get 28.3% of the votes. The Iceologer would spawn in the mountains and have the ability to spawn ice chunks, as well as throw them at the player, which would hover for a few seconds before hitting the target. After being hit, you would become slowed for 5 seconds. This is one of the coolest lost mobs from the mob vote in my opinion. I really wish we saw this come to the game. It would get 34.8% of the votes. The 2021 mob vote gave us the Allay, Copper Golem, and the Glare. The Allay would end up taking this year's mob vote, getting more than half the votes. To be honest, there really isn't much to say about the mobs in this year's vote. The Glare would have been a small ghost-like mob covered in leaves that would alert a player if an area was dark enough for a hostile mob to spawn. I think this is one of the worst mobs from any of the votes so far. I think most people would agree, only getting 11.2% of the votes. The Copper Golem was a small copper-like robot mob that would be attracted to copper buttons and able to press them at random. This one was a really creative idea, and I'm kinda surprised it didn't win. It would get 37.8% of the votes. I still can't believe that the Allay actually won. The 2022 mob vote gave us a Sniffer, the Rascal, and the Tough Golem. The Sniffer would win this year's vote. The Rascal was a mob found in areas below Y0. The Rascal gave hints to the player to help find it, and would reward the player with an item if found 3 times. They would then teleport away. While it's kinda cool, definitely one of the weaker mobs, it would get 27.7% of the votes. The Tough Golem would require being built. If a wool block was included while building, it would wear a cloak matching the color of the wool used. The Tough Golem could hold and display any item, and was able to move around and turn back into a statue at will. This one was a really cool idea just to have in the game for fun. However, it would only get 17.2% of the votes. Out of all these lost mobs, I think the coolest ones are the Wildfire, the Iceologer, and the Copper and Tough Golems. I just don't understand why Mojang can't add all 3 of the mobs to the game. Nothing is really stopping them. I just don't like being forced to pick one and lose out on the other 2. But even with the protests, it looks like nothing is changing. So I guess we'll see what 2 mobs we can add to the list in the next few days.